Peace be upon you, my fellow programmers. Last time we added already save. We saved the address into our database and we needed in order to save the address to send the full address even with the ID. Then we got already error when we try to save the address without the ID. Let's remind ourselves if we make a send request now, we are getting back empty address. Why? Because every time you are restarting your application, you are already resetting the data which you stored into the in-memory data. That's why it's called in-memory for testing. Later on, we are going to use flyway migration and we will create specific scripts which will run on the startup of the application to store some dummy data into the database so later we can manipulate this data without worrying about saving the data every single time. For the moment, let's test one more time the save by ID and I would like to send it again and to see. Okay, I got the same error, identifier of entity and must manually be assigned. That means that I have to provide the ID manually. But what if I don't need to do that? And what is the difference between providing the ID manually or not providing it manually? And when to use it, in fact? You have two options in general. First one, if you would like to provide the ID manually, that means you need to use this ID somewhere later on in a calculation while you are saving things. Let's think about YouTube. YouTube, you upload a video, and then in the same time, simultaneously, the video is uploaded, but you're still able to manipulate the metadata and all this stuff, and even save the metadata while the video is still uploading. Because somehow, maybe YouTube is storing the video, getting the ID, and sending the ID for the processing. And once the video is done, you get notification. So that's why sometimes you need to provide either the ID by yourself. So later you can use the ID while there is some processing. In another situation, you don't need to worry about this. You just need to store the application and you don't care about how the ID will be managed. That's where Spring data will come into the picture. There is something we call it generated value. This generated value, it's always you use this annotation with IDs are going hand to hand together. Generated value, it has a strategy. What strategy mean? Sorry. Strategy is a strategy used to store the ID into your database. Always you have like what is the generated type. Generated tab you have different, but if you would like to avoid the hassle of generating the data by yourself or generating the ID by yourself, you just provide one of two. You provide identity if you don't use UUID, for example, you use long or integer. But if you use UUID, you have already one UUID, it will be generated for you. If you would like to learn more about this generation type, you can simply control right left click and you will get into the enum of the generated type, and here you can please go through them, read them, know them, when to use what. That's your task. Do it yourself, please. Take everyone and then study it by yourself. So now we already provided the address and we asked the address that please I will provide you an address without ID. So your generated value, it should generate UUID for me, then store it into the database. So let's now rerun the application and try again to save an item without providing the data. Okay, let's save. All right, now you have already your item, even you didn't provide the ID. You can double check it if you take the ID, Control C, and then get by ID. We provide it as a pass variable here, and Control V. Send, you get it, Palestine, Jerusalem, and freedom. So in that moment, we have already provided and our address, or we dictated Spring data that you will generate by yourself as ID every time I am saving a new item. And that will give us a new idea that we will use it later. Okay, now we fixed already the point of generating address without providing the ID explicitly. It will be implicitly generated by Spring data. Let's go into adding POT request. We have address controller. I can save address, but what about update? Usually, if you have item, you would like to update this item. To update item, we will do what we call it at put request. Put mapping. In put mapping, we will update item public as a best practice address and update address. In that moment, if you update something, it means that something already exists in your database. So there is a record already in the database. You need to take this record out. Also, there are two different ways to do that. You can use whatever is applicable in your condition. First one is by providing the UUID, the ID of the item you would like, and then you will provide the address that you would like to manipulate. And then, as usual, you will return from the service dot update address, providing it the ID and the address. It will ask us to generate this method, so please create it for us. And usually, here is the point. First of all, you need to get the address from the database. Later on, after you have it, you will map what you would like to change. If you know in advance what is the update, it will be much easier. But if you don't know in advance what you want to update, means that you will set every single field in this address. For example, I would like to have address from database. So I will say, let's say that DB address because it's coming from database. How it's coming from database? I still able to use get address by ID on the top, and I will provide the ID. Now I have the address already from database, which I need to update it. If something went wrong, remember that I still have already the exception here. It will be thrown. Okay, now I got the address from the database and I have the updated address. This one is updated. So I have here the new value which I would like to change in this address from the database. In that moment, where you will add every single item by yourself. Let's say db.set city. You will get the city from the address for update. The same will be db.set set address. You will get also the address from database db.set country. You will get also the country from the database. Why we don't need to get the ID? Because already the ID we know it. Now it's time to save this address in your database. Simply, you will use the same approach, repository, but we don't have here any update. We still use save, and we will save the DB address into the database. But usually we will return. That's the standard method of updating items anywhere. But usually you will not always have only 4 or 3 items you would like to update. Sometimes you would like to create a separate method for update based on your object. You don't know, maybe you will have more than object inside this address. And you know that, okay, I would like to update only city. In this case, you will only update the city and you will keep the rest as it is because there is no need to update them. So now I have it all in my hands, the update address by ID. Let's go back to our controller. Remember that from where I will get this UUID, I need a Spring Web to understand that there is something coming with the request. So let's provide the UUID as at pass variable, and the address will be usually at request body. Now it's a moment of truth. Let's check what will be it when we tested our application. So here we are, our application is running, and let's go into our postman. We do have addresses here? No, I don't have an address. If I run this one, yeah, I will have a new address. Now I have this address saved. Let's get it by ID. There is no address not found because already we have a new one here. So let's create a new save. I will just change the save to be put. And in that moment, I would like to remove all of that. I will take from get the new provided address from here. You can see it. I'm just copying the value because that's what I need to provide. Remember that put has a body. And this body, I need to capture the ID. And I will send this ID as well as variable because it's put. And let's say, for example, here is the address Freedom Street. Okay, let's change street to square and control, not control, and then send. Let's see what will be it. Okay, method boot is not allowed, which means that we didn't restart our application, I think. So let's, okay, yeah, it is boot address and everything is okay, ID, return. So let's rerun our application and double check it. Because it should allow method boot. I have it already. Oh, yes, it's not allowed because I didn't provide here the value of ID. I need to provide here the value of ID because remember this is a pass variable and I need the pass variable to be in this point, which I have it there. So that was my mistake. So let's run again, rerun the application again. But in this time, I will need to create a new save. I will need to save a new address. So let's save a new address again and let's take all these values provided to our put because this one is not save address anymore. It is, let's call it update address and save. Now let's provide everything once more. Make this one not st, let's make it square. And I need to take the new ID. I have it here and provide it to ID there. That's how the development in real life works. You make error and try. So let's send. We send it and voila, congratulations, you have square. Okay, how can you test it's working or not? Let's Control C and to get address here. If I get this address, I should get it with square value. What? No static resource? Yeah, because I have double. Okay. So now exactly I have it here Freedom Square City, Freedom Square address. Great. So maybe I add it, put, yes, Freedom Square, Freedom City, and address. I believe that I duplicated something as usual. Let's see what mess I did, and I wish that you will forgive me, please. So here is address service. Let's check our boot. Exactly. I get country. You see, I duplicated address twice, one for city, one for address. So that's something I have to be careful of. So get city. So, okay, now you saw it by yourself that I can provide it. In fact, you can also provide the same put mapping, but in this time, you can do it exactly the same, but without all this hassle. Why without this one? I can make this null or I can make a totally brand new method. I will prefer to make it a brand new method and I will call this one update address as it is, but the different will use, let's duplicate it. To duplicate, Control D. That will make a duplicate for another one. And we will just remove. The reason why it will work, because as you can see, here we used overload. Overload means that you have everything is still the same, but because the method signature is different, you can use the same name and automatically Java will detect which method is required from the caller by checking the argument here. So from where can I get this ID? I can get this ID from address dot get UUID. So now I have my second one is ready and let's also double check it together. I don't need anymore this one. There is no reason to use it. I need only to provide this address. Let's rerun the application and double check what will be it. Our application is running. Let's go back here to save a new address. We saved the new address and we would like to take this new address as it is, Control C. We'll go back again to update address. And in update address, I will provide update address only and I will remove all this ID from here. Then let's also change it to be Freedom Square and send. Should work exactly. It works fine. There is no issue. I still have the same ID. Jerusalem, Freedom Square, Palestine, still free. Will be always free. Okay. So that was it. We added put mapping two different ways. What will decide which one to use, this one or this one, is based on the front end implementation, what they would like to use. Both of them are doing exactly the same. If you have the object providing you with the ID, great. If you have a separate that like this ID is coming from somewhere else, also that's great. So next episode will be something related to Spring data. We will go a little bit deeper into some more annotations here, like column stuff like this, and then we will start to add our flyway migration. So later on, we don't need every single time to run the application to save new items, get back a new items, and all these hassles, and we waste a lot of time only saving, adding, saving, adding. So please stay tuned. Hopefully this episode or this lecture was good for you. If you got some benefits, share it, subscribe, and see you next time. Really, I'm appreciating your patience and enjoy it. But remember something, I would like to ask you for something to do by yourself. By yourself, try to send this one update, for example, without ID. Remove this ID and check what is going on. Try to make yourself comfortable with this method, like change the signature, add something new, play around it, okay? Just enjoy, invent something different with the put, save, get. You have the tools now. Enjoy using it. And see you next time. Stay tuned. Peace be upon you all.